our practice today. My name is Jen, if we haven't met yet. For today's practice, what would be really great to have is a folded up blanket, folded about this big, or a small thin block if you have one of those at home. And as an option, we'll have a thicker block as well. But again, it's not the end of the world if you don't have it. So let's start lying on our backs. And we're going to take that folded up blanket or small block just underneath the pelvis. And this edge of the blanket or block is going to be just about halfway up the sacrum, so that the top half of your sacrum that connects to the spine is on the blanket, and the bottom half of your sacrum that is more on the end of the tailbone is on the blanket. I think I got that right. So there should be a slight incline to the pelvis, and the edge of that blanket should be lightly connecting just underneath the iliac crest and into the meat of your glutes. Your toes can be spread wide, the feet hip distance apart. Practice if you've done them with is bent. Lean feet. By leaning into your feet, you can feel a little bit more of a full and intimate connection with the back body. A little bit clearer. And see if you can breathe from very so inhale of into the back, into the sides, into the pelvic floor, into the diaphragm, in a spherical way. Moving to the edge of the inhale, and then collapsing back to the center on the exhale. Really, with each you take, you landscape of the inner body. Seeing if you find those still points. The point where nothing happens at the top of the inhalation. And at the bottom of the exhalation. And I remind myself of this all the time too. Any time that the mind does wander away into remembering or imagination, once you've realized that you've done that, simply let the thinking process go and return your attention and breathing in the body. Take one breath. And one by one, draw the feet up off the mat, draw the knees towards the deep belly. Place the hands just on top of your kneecaps with the fingers spread wide, and start to make circles in opposing directions with your knees. Now, this motion should actually come from the flexion of your elbows. It's that when these knees are making or rotating inside of that hip joint, that you're going back and forth, rock toward the half of the sacrum when the knees are moving away, and then the top half of the sacrum move back towards the belly. Let's switch directions. Keep the toes spread and bright. Really get engaged with how that sacrum is rocking back and forth in the blanket. Coming back through center, let's squeeze the knees into the belly. And then start to push the knees away from and then back towards you. So this one is pretty easy to do with your breathing. The inhale, we push the knees away. And then on the exhale, they come back towards the belly. And it's like pulling the knees in towards the belly is helping to press that breath out of your lower lungs. Still noticing that rocking back and forth from side to side here. Draw those knees in again, plant the sole of that left foot onto the floor, interlace the hands on the front of that right knee and squeeze that knee in towards the armpit a little bit. Toes are alert, bottoms of the feet are wide, back is spread onto the floor, letting your front body soften and collapse into the front of the spine. And then from here, release that leg. Foot comes up towards the ceiling. You can either plant the hands onto the floor, or if it feels okay for you, you can tuck those fingers underneath your lower ribs, widening the elbows, pressing the backs of the shoulders into the floor, and then start to raise and lower that right leg up and down. We're looking for an even glide with that right leg, almost that feeling of cross-country skiing on one leg. And only within a range of motion that it's not disturbing or disturbing very little through the rest of the body. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Plant that right foot down. Left knee comes into the deep belly. Interlace the hands on the front shin. Full breath to the low. Once more, hands onto the floor or hands catching, fingers catching underneath the low ribs. Extend that left heel to the ceiling. And then raising and lowering that left leg. You can keep your knee a little bit bent. I would actually encourage you to do that rather than having the leg straight. For For a lot of years, my personal practice was all about straight lines within the body, and then as I got a little closer to 40, a lot's changed in the asana realm, so now it's about bows and curves. Remember to keep grounding through that right foot, providing firm connection through that sole, keeping wide through the back body and concaving through the front body. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Left sole of the foot onto the floor. Let's push into the feet. Lift the pelvis, slide that blanket out from underneath us. Pelvis back to the floor. Draw those knees in. And then from here, interlace the hands behind the back of the head, elbows point up towards the ceiling, toes spread wide. And then we have our little spinal extensions. So knees and elbows move towards one another, and then crown and tailbone move away from each other. Or you can think about it just in terms of the crown and the tailbone. I know it's a little bit tricky, but see if you can maintain a sense of quiet to the front abdominal wall. And think about this movement coming from flexion and extension of the back body. For 2 and 1. Rest on the back. Elbows come out to the sides. Now the knees can be kept hip distance apart, or for more stability, you can take the knees together. I like working with the knees apart. It's a bit of a challenge and also a little bit better for my pelvis. Keep your feet bright. Ground the elbows into the floor. The hands can be off at 45 degrees, and we really want to widen through the backs of the armpits. And then we're wobbling from side to side on the sacrum. Now these little wobbles from side to side can turn into a little bit more for the core if we want to go there. Just rocking a style imprinted onto the floor through the iliac crest. And when those knees come over to one side, the deep belly engages, and we can draw the knees up towards the armpit, and then when they come towards center, the feet and knees can just kind of roll to the floor a little bit. But I'd really like you to feel like you're acquainted with how you is moving in and around your spine from about the area of thoracic spine, so your middle back, all the way down pelvis. And you can create the arms in this movement as well, which is a little trickier, into a twisting motion. When the knees come to the right, we take the elbows off the floor and take the hands over to the left. And when the knees come to the left, the hands go over towards the right. And we almost feel like these hands are holding a really big beach ball. Rocking the beach ball from side to side. I got my head mixed up there. The head will follow the knees. So knees and gaze are going towards one direction, hands are going towards the other with our big invisible beach ball. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Coming back through center. And then we're going to roll over to our right side. And we're going to support ourselves on our right elbow and plant the sole of that left foot onto the floor, tent the left fingertips just in front of the center of the chest or the deep belly, whatever you feel. And then what we're going to do, as we can flex that right foot, lean into the fullness of the back body, and then we're going to lift and lower that right leg up towards the ceiling. Now the body should be at about a 30-degree angle here as we lean into our back. And it might take a little bit for you to get this, so if this feels complex enough, left knee pointed towards the ceiling, right leg lifting and lowering, and it's kind of the arch of the foot that's facing the ceiling that we're lifting and lowering. And if we feel we want to incorporate some arm movement as well, how does this go? So left hand reaches forward, foot comes up, and then as the foot lowers down, the elbow comes back. So it's a little bit tricky, but interesting when you can find that. And this left hand and elbow and shoulder, it's like this sawing motion is being created. See if you can get that motion parallel to the floor. And then keep resting into the back of your body. Keep softening the upper and lower abdominals back and in to your big, wide turtle back. Okay, let's replant that left set of fingers onto the floor. Take the right toes, hook them into the floor almost like a kickstand. Lift that left knee up with the sole of the foot off of the floor, and then lift and lower that left leg up and down. So the gaze can follow that left foot. Breath feels full and deep. Both the left and right sides of the front side of our body are collapsing into that center middle. So feel as if your left rib cage and left belly is wrapping around and diving deep into the front. Really leaning into your foundation points here. Okay, let's try the other side. So rolling onto your back. Now you'll just roll onto your left side. I'm actually going to flip sides so I'm not gazing away from the camera. And then we kind of go backwards. So resting the sole of that left foot onto the floor. So we're going to start with these leg raises this time on this side. Remember, we want that 30-degree angle with the body at least. Soles of the left toes are caught onto the floor with the heel up like a bike kickstand. The breath is full and deep and even. And with every exhalation, we're falling back and into ourselves. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Plant the sole of the right foot down. So now these are our left leg lifts, the lifts of the lower leg, whatever that was on the bottom. And remember the instep of the foot with the knee slightly bent, that's what's lifting up towards the ceiling. And if we wanted to incorporate that arm movement as well, we can do that. So if you haven't done my class before, a lot of these dynamic movements that we're taking, these are part of something called the Tensegrity series by Joya Irwin. I just want to give her the credit for that. I did not make this up. And they have the purpose of, this is a type of asana that is really, really nice for working with the connective tissue of the body. So that connective web of information that connects everything in the body. For 3, 2, and 1. Good. Roll onto your back. Take a few breaths. Let's do a few more on the back here. So let's grab our blanket once again, tuck it underneath about halfway up the sacrum, draw the knees into the chest, and then lift the feet up towards the ceiling, lift your arms up towards the ceiling. Let's just hang out a little bit here. See if you can get those hands right above the shoulders, the feet right above the hips. Then start to make some rotations with those hands and feet. Feel as if the hands and feet are rotating perfectly around the center of their joints. Three, two, one. Switch directions of those rotations. Three, two, and one. Good. Now bring the insteps of the feet together. The fingers just kind of meet, almost like you're holding a soft ball in between your fingers here. And then what we're going to do is open our legs and our arms, and then come back together. So not the most challenging movement, but challenging to do when you're trying not to pop out the front of your body. So just let the movement go to the edge of your flexibility. Just sort of test that. And then have a little bit of resilience from that end point as you bounce back to the middle. Give the chin a little tuck. With every exhalation, we're having the sense of resting deeper and further back into the body. Now we're going to switch. So what we're going to do is open the legs, close the arms, and then opposite to that. So arms open, legs close. Heads of the arm bones are rolling nicely in their joints. Try moving with the eyes closed. Personally, I always really dislike when instructors tell me to move with the eyes closed, but this one feels a little more friendly because we're not in any super challenging balance positions. Three, two, and one. Legs come back up towards the center. Let's plant those feet. Lift the pelvis, slide the blanket out from underneath. Slowly move the pelvis down onto the back. Knees towards the belly. Hook behind the hamstrings and then start to rock up and down the spine. And if this doesn't feel good for you, always feel free to just roll to your side and come onto your hands and your knees. For 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Rolling up, we're going to continue to use our blanket, especially if your back body is tight. Even as a pretty flexible person, I always like using the blanket. So let's bring our left leg out to the left side. Sole of the right foot comes into the left inner thigh. And we press the foot and thigh together in towards the midline. Take an inhale, lengthen the spine, move the torso up and out of the pelvis. And as you exhale, hollow the deep belly back and start to curl forward, slowly walking those hands down towards that left leg. Of course, use the tap if you feel you need. rolling up the spine. And let's just switch. So you can even just woo, all the way over to the other side. So let's pull that right femoral head back into the socket. Take an inhale, lift the torso. Exhale, hollow the deep belly, and roll the spine forward in a really nice, clean, and clear bow. So if the back body is tight, oftentimes what will emerge is more of a hunching in the upper back. So even if you're experiencing that tightness, what you can do, instead of trying to force yourself down towards the leg, try to think less about the flexibility and more about how the spine is positioned. So putting more emphasis on drawing the deep, deep belly back to the front of the spine and evening out that curve. So getting a little bit puffier in your low back and in your thoracic spine, and just trying to take that more of the hunch out of the upper back. And you can think about that through the way that you can draw the deep belly and then the upper belly and then the center of the chest and then also the base of the throat back and into the front of the spine. Remember to connect through the center of the palm, wrist, shoulder, across to the opposite hip, and then ground. Find that X marks the spot. Connecting from hand to opposite side of your pelvis. Exhale all the way to the end. Put the hands onto the floor just beside that right leg. And inhale, rolling up. And then exhale, we'll bring feet hip distance apart. Belly meets the tops of the thighs. You can hold on to the outside edges of the feet or use your strap if you need. And then we slowly exhale. Depending if your surface is sticky, you might have a little harder of a time with this, but we slowly inch the heels forward. And we think about the same thing with the front body, so hollowing at the deep belly, puffing up the low back, puffing up the thoracic area of the back, hollowing at the base of the throat. And we can keep folding forward and moving those heels out until it feels like the belly is leaving the thighs, and that's where we stop. Inhale, let go of your feet, roll up. Now you can remove the blanket out from underneath you, come back onto your hands or your elbows, whatever you prefer, and then keep those feet flexed and just rock from side to side here. Twisting around the very center of yourself. So head turns in the opposing direction from the knees. And just really enjoy this massage that the glutes are kind of getting here. Come back through center, sit up. You can hold the fronts of your knees with the feet flexed. You can hold the backs of the hamstrings, pointing the toes to the floor. And we're finding that place either between the tailbone and the pubic bone. And I want you to just play. So maybe it feels a little better like this. Maybe it feels a little better like this. See which one works for you. Resting into the fullness of the back, the sacrum is happy and awake. The shoulders are sliding down and away from the ears. And we're going to try to keep this steadiness and softness and relaxation into our back body so we can stay here, or we can start to lift here with the legs together or apart, or all the way up here for 5. Just kind of feeling a little bounciness, just releasing any rigidity that we're having to have for 2. And 1. Cross your ankles, roll over top, tuck the toes, push back, downward facing dog. Inhale forward to a high plank. If you need to increase your stance, no problem. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, roll forward to high plank. Pause. Exhale, downward facing dog. Last one. Inhale, roll forward, high plank. And slowly bend your elbows with or without the knees to lower to the belly. Let's sweep the arms forward in front, and then inhale, bring those elbows back towards us, gently looking up, center of the chest moving forward. Internally rotate the thighs to plant the pinky toes onto the floor. Engagement of the thighs lifts the kneecaps. And from here, we take our left forearm parallel to the short end of the mat. Folks at home, if you have a really tight front, what you might want to do is take your elbow a little bit forward in front, lie your forehead onto the wrist instead. As we bend that right knee, reach back for the top of the foot and pull that heel towards the outer glute. So this is Ardha Bikasana, half frog. And just like we've been talking about all class, try to concave your front body. So pull the front body up and away from the floor. Relax the jaw and pretend there's a little bit of a magnet between the inner knees. For 2 and 1, let's switch. Remember, elbow can be a little bit in front of you. You can rest the hand on the wrist or the head on the wrist, or be upright. Whatever the body wants to do. Keep rolling that left shoulder forward and the right shoulder back. For 3, 2, and 1. Release, hands under the shoulders. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, knees to the ground, spinal roll back, downward facing dog. Step the feet together at the back of the mat. Shoulders wide, first finger and thumb ground. Gently lift that right foot off the floor, pull the knee in towards the deep belly. And as you inhale, push that right heel out towards the back of the room. Exhale, look forward and step that right foot to the outside edge of your right hand, coming down to your left knee. So blanket can also be a friend here if we are experiencing some feeling hard underneath that left knee. We can also grab our block and have a little bit of a lift underneath our hands. It might make it a little bit more comfortable. Shoulders slide down and relax. See if you can press down into your right foot and widen your left hip left. Press down into your left foot and widen your right hip right. Now this posture might be enough for you. It's almost enough for me since we're in biking and hiking season. But if you'd like a little bit more, we can actually go a little bit deeper into this lizard lunge. And if that is the case, you can turn your right toes out so it's 45 degrees towards the edge of the mat. And I really like to bring my block off on a 45-degree angle as well and lean my left elbow into that. And then from here, I can bend my left knee, reach back, and cramp. That's sometimes happens, a little hamstring cramp when coming into these lunges. And then from here, left sole pulls towards that left glute. And just kind of experiment. What is the best way to have your right hand on this foot? So maybe the palm of the hand is on the instep of the foot. Maybe it's on the outstep of the foot near the pinky toe side. Now keep the front and center line of the body collapsing in towards itself. Tuck your chin into your right armpit and spin around the center of yourself. Exhale, release that left foot down. Hands onto the floor, you can remove your block. Take an inhale, lift that left knee up, and exhale, step back into downward facing dog. If you feel you want to lift that right leg way up and then give a few rotations to the knee, that's also an option before you put it down again. Press hands and feet, feet and hands. And then we will try the other side. So again, you can stay facing the same way, having your block if you like. Left foot comes off of the floor, knee towards the belly. Inhale your heel back towards the ceiling. And then exhale, take that left foot, step it to the outside edge of that left hand, drop down to your right knee. So the more that you push into the floor, the more that is going to feed back up and into the body as opening. So if you want less intensity, push into the floor. If you want more, push more. Remember, not every day the body is the same. And sometimes we'll need more. And the maturity of your practice comes in when you can decipher to apply and when to do it. If you take a version of this posture, turn the left toes out towards the corner of your mat, bend your right knee, reach for the back of that, or the top of that right foot, draw the foot towards the glute. And spiral around the middle of yourself. See if you can even out the sensation in the body. And yes, some areas might have more, some areas might have less. See if you can even that out. Call the low ribs in. For 2. And 1, release. Hands plant onto the floor. Heel toe that left foot back in line. Inhale, lift that right knee up, and then press back into downward facing dog. If you felt you wanted to, that foot could lift up off the floor. We could have a few rotations of that knee one way and then the other. And then at your leisure, you can come down to a seat, place your hands behind you, and 2 options here. You can plant the soles of the feet and just move the chest towards the ceiling with your fingers kind of turned back towards the pelvis, keeping the chin tucked. Or if you like, you can tuck your tailbone off of the floor, lift the pelvis up, keep the chin tucked, or take the head back. Three, 2, and slowly sink the pelvis down. 1 more time, slowly lie onto the back, and we'll revisit that side-to-side curl with the knees, or if you weren't making that big motion, you can just wobble from side to side on the pelvis. Using your arms or not. See if your head and your knees can travel together at the same rate. See if they can arrive together. For 3, 2, and 1. Slowly replant those feet. Lift the right arm over the head. This is going to be our last set of postures here. We roll to the right, slide that left hand behind the back, just as high as it wants to go, and then roll back onto your back. Option here to bend that right elbow and catch your fingers behind the back. And then pushing into the feet in this more static posture will give you an opportunity to settle down into all of the parts of your back. But see if you can take a sense of forcing out of the equation. Instead, can you bring a sense of heaviness? So feeling heavy from the center of the knee, down the center of the shin, down the center of the heel. 2 sides of your pelvis heavy. Deep low belly and navel center heavy. Center of the chest and base of the throat heavy. Space just above and between the eyebrows heavy. If the right hand is behind you, you can extend it up, roll to the right side enough to free that left hand. Let your arms fall down beside the body. Take a big deep breath in and out. Big deep breath in and out. Let's try the other side. Left arm comes over the head, rolling to your left enough for that right hand to wander behind the back, and see if you can make the two sides of the body look similar. So this is an asymmetrical posture. But our body is still symmetrical within this asymmetry, so we can still connect both feet in an equal way. We can still connect that cross-referencing sense between the big toe and the outer heel, and the pinky toe side and the inner heel. And feeling that little bit of a lift through the center of the arch of the foot. The two sides of your pelvis might feel a little unevenly weighted. That's okay. See if you can still try to bring some sense of evenness to them, or to it. Try to sink through the low, deep belly and the navel. Through the center of the chest, back and into the front of the spine. The base of the throat, the center between and just above the eyebrows gets heavy. Free that left hand if it's there. Roll to your left enough to free your right hand. Roll back to your back. Take a big inhale here. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Finishing off with a little bit of dynamic movement. So let's step our feet towards the center. See if you can touch the big toes, lean into the feet. Take your right knee off of the floor and cross your right knee over your left. So you have eagle legs. And then find that X marks the spot through the sole of that left foot. You can find it through the right foot as well, but more importance on getting that connection through the left foot. And then we take an inhale here with our arms wide. Exhale, wrap left arm over right and take backs or palms of our hands together. Hold hands with ourselves. And then lean the head over towards the left a little bit. And then from here, press into the sole of that left foot, and you can slowly start to slide those hands just to the right side of the head. Maybe those right fingertips will touch the floor.
Firmly connect to the sole of your left foot. Firmly connect to both of your shoulders, both sides of the pelvis. Now, if this feels good, you are welcome to stay here. You can also turn this into a dynamic posture by drawing knees and elbows towards one another and then moving them away from the center. You'll just have to keep your head turned towards the left a little bit. So try this out. It might feel good, maybe not. You can go back to just steady holding. So knees and elbows reach apart. There's a moment when they both reach their furthest direction from that center point, and then they go back to the middle. Once again, let's plant the sole of that left foot on the floor. Hands plant to that right side of your head. And then inhale, unwind your arms. Let that right leg go, and let's relax with the legs and arms wide. Take a big, deep breath in. And out. Again, in. And out. Let's try that on the other side. So feet plant to the center of the mat. Take a moment where you lean into your feet. Big toe mounds meet. And then we pick our left knee up off the floor, cross that leg over into your eagle legs. So inner thighs squeeze to the midline in an equal way. Find the cross reference on the sole of your right foot. Take an inhale here. Exhale, right arm under, left arm over, either backs or palms of the hands. Go to the midline. And you can kind of tug the hands into themselves. Push your left hand to the right and your right hand to the left. And that'll give a little tug around your shoulders. And we're going to turn the head to the right this time. And take that left hand to plant towards the floor, if not on the floor, just to the left side of your head. Push into your feet or foot. Ground to puff up the back as you soften the front body. And remember, you can hold this, or you can lift elbows and knees towards the midline. This doesn't have to be a big movement. This can actually be just so very little, just like this. See if you can stay within a range of movement that is not causing the front belly to harden, but instead just really leaning into that deep core. And then maybe going back to steady, static holding. And then unwind the arms, unwind the legs. Take an inhale here. Exhale. Again, inhale. Exhale. If you wish, you can just continue to rest onto the back for Shavasana. You can also choose to rest in a light supported fish pose as well. So for that, we would grab our larger block, and you can use it on the first or the second height. If the spine is more on the open side, it might be nice to use the blanket just on top. And then that edge of the block comes down around the mid-back, and you can have a little bolster. Sometimes it takes you a few tries to just figure out how much openness you need today. Legs can be extended or knees pointed to the ceiling, or finding a Baddha Konasana with the feet. Taking an inhale here. All the way to the top, hold the breath as long as it's comfortable. And exhale. And just continue to invite this quality of rest. With every exhalation that is naturally, without any effort, occurring already in your body. If you are in a supported fish, you can plant the soles of the feet on the floor and roll to your side. And then take your other hand, remove those items from behind you, and roll back to your back. And draw your knees towards the chest, wrapping your arms around the shins and then moving the shins away from you. So we're just hanging into the hammock of the back. And then roll back down to your back. And you can use the strength of the arms to move you up to a comfortable seat. And just taking a moment here. With every exhalation, resting further and further into your back body. Even your attention just wraps around the sides of your head and washes into the back of your brain. Be with what is there. Whether it is movement or stillness, be with that. Be with the restlessness or the rest. Our long-term practice expands on our potentials to be with what is there. Drawing hands to heart center. Thank you ever so much for sharing your practice today, everyone. See you next time.